To the phones, it's Liz, and I'm glad to have you on the program. Hi.
Hi, Raj. I'm calling in reference to something you were talking about in your first hour with the Community Reinvestment Act and the federal regulations forcing banks to make risky loans.
Yeah, let me repeat this just briefly for a second, because it was the first hour, and some welfare recipients have just probably gotten up in the last hour and listening now. For the first time, federal regulators are writing regulations and laws telling lenders who they must lend to, meaning that the people have to be able to prove they can pay back the loan. For the first time, they're doing this. This was the news, and the interpretation is that this is tantamount an admission. Federal regulators, for the first time, are laying out rules aimed at ensuring that mortgage borrowers can afford to repay the loans they take out. Now, my point about this was, and I'm sure most of you have had to prove countless ways you can pay it back, and you're saying, well, whoa, wait a minute, the rules already exist. Not for the people that we're talking. Subprime people were never made to prove. In fact,
Right.
There were people that everybody knew couldn't pay it back, and they were given the loans anyway. So I wanted to set that up. So people knew what you were talking about.
Right. Well, I have a true anecdotal story. In the 90s, under the Clinton years, they were really ramming that through with forcing banks to make these loans. And my husband was the general counsel of a small regional bank in Virginia. And the feds came in and pulled 3 files that they had rejected for mortgages, and were sort of putting them all out on a table and asking them, why did you reject this and whatnot. The one loan, the woman stated her monthly income would be $15 more than what her mortgage payment would be. And the bankers kind of shrugged their shoulders and looked at the regulator and said, well, that's why we rejected it. And the regulator, I quote, said, you were making a lifestyle choice for her. And the bank was fined, and they were reprimanded in that they were not allowed to make a friendly merger for a period of, I think, about 9 months.
Folks, I hope you heard what she said, because this is exactly what was happening. The banks were being forced, therefore, to make loans to people who couldn't pay it back. The federal regulators are coming in threatening the banks. Janet Reno was threatening with further investigations. Here they were denied friendly mergers. They were forced to make the loan. A woman said, my take-home pay is $15 a month more than the mortgage payment will be. The bank said, well, that makes no sense for you to take that. Made the bank loan the money anyway, and then the feds that were making the lifestyle choice accusing the bank of doing that.
Right. And then when the whole meltdown happened in 2008, I knew immediately, the Wall Street Journal had been following this, and I knew immediately it was because of Democrat policies, and yet immediately George Bush and the Republicans were blamed for the meltdown. And I just think Romney should have made a bigger point of that in the campaign, because every time Obama would say, you don't want to go back to the policies that got us in this place.
You know why they didn't? I'm convinced that they didn't is because they think it'd be too complicated to explain, or there might have been some Republicans complicit with it. There were a lot of people who made a lot of money on this fraud.
Yeah, but even Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were staffed almost entirely by old, Democrat husbands that were getting their payoff at the end of their careers.
That's right. Franklin Raines, Jim Johnson, and that crowd. I know. It really is maddening. I hope people heard what you said, because there's a real-world example of what was happening.
Exactly.
And it was frustrating. Immediately when the crash happened, they blame evil Wall Street banks and started accusing them of being predatory lenders, which meant that they were going out and just on the street dragging these people in and making them take the loans that they couldn't pay back. It was a massive set of lies that were being told.
It wasn't capitalism that failed. It was government intervention into capitalism that failed.
Disguised as compassion. Allowing everybody to experience the American dream.
Again, unintended consequences, which I think were in the past with liberals, but I think the Obama administration and things they're doing now are intended consequences.
I do, too.
I don't think it's any longer unintended.
You're exactly right. I don't believe in this unintended consequence stuff. There's nothing innocent about what these people are doing.
No.
It's like you remember the healthcare law. I have to remind people, the healthcare law is 2,200 pages. Now, that health care law it was sitting in a drawer. That health care law is a Democrat Party wet dream. That's been sitting in a drawer for years. Progressives over the years, congressional staff members wrote that health care law and put it in a drawer waiting for their moment of nirvana when they could introduce it. They didn't write that 2,200-page law from the time Obama started talking about it until it was passed. That thing had been sitting there. That was their prototype and had been written over years. And I'm telling you this because I want to remind the same thing, whatever Biden and Obama are cooking up with their little chat here on guns, I guarantee you what they want to do with guns is somewhere in a document, a wish list like the healthcare law was. Folks, they did not write the 2,200, whatever it is, 2,700-page Obamacare law in 2 months. That law has been written over years with input from a lot of people. Every Democrat constituency has a Christmas morning in that healthcare bill. And the same thing is happening in this gun control thing. So whatever Obama and Biden are cooking up, they're out there. Well, we're talking. We're coming up with a solution. It's already written years ago. The Democrat Party has been salivating over the moment where they could come up with whatever technique they're going to employ to get guns somehow drastically changed in this country. And it's already written. This is just a public show. They're trying to capitalize on the scant attention being paid by people. You have Sandy Hook, everybody's emotional fever pitch ratcheted way up. And they have created this impression. Everybody's put their heads together now. We've finally reached the breaking point. It's enough. We've got to do something. And they're all huddling and they're coming up with some great plan. And I'm telling you, the plan has been in a drawer for years, like the healthcare law was. Don't doubt me. I know these people. I appreciate, Liz, the call.